10 most overrated classic Doctor Who stories. A while ago, quite a long while ago, I did a top 10 most underrated classic Doctor Who stories, and somebody asked me recently to do a top 10 most overrated. I thought about it, hummed and ahed, and thought, oh, well, why not? Can't think of anything else to do this week. So here we are, my top 10 most overrated stories from classic Doctor Who. Number 10. Enemy of the World. This 6-part Patrick Troughton story from Season 5 was missing, apart from Episode 3, up until 2013, when the whole thing was found. At which point it went from being a story that's basically nobody talked about at all to suddenly being this stunning classic that was better than The Web of Fear, at least according to, those types who desperately want to be iconoclastic. I don't see it, I'm afraid. While I was pleased to get a missing story back, even on first viewing I wasn't all that impressed, and on subsequent viewings I'm even less impressed. It's kind of dull. There's just not a lot to it and not a lot of point to it, and although it's fun having Patrick Troughton playing a dual role, they don't even get to meet until the very last episode for about 2 seconds. The plot it just doesn't work. It feels like it's trying to do a historical story in a futuristic setting, but the futuristic setting isn't very well realized or convincing, and so it all just seems boring. 9. The Sea Devils. Now, this is another story that's long been a fandom favourite, and I've never quite figured out why. Even on first viewing I was like, and again over time, look, it starts well. I mean, it's well made and it's well acted and it starts off pretty good. You can't shake the fact, however, that it's basically just a retread of the Silurians, only not as good, because we've swapped all the actual drama and grit for running around with the Master again. And unfortunately, it's really let down by the pacing, which even as 6-parters go, is really, really slow. And the most damning thing is that instead of accelerating toward a climax, it actually gets slower the longer it goes. The last episode in particular, which should at least have some excitement in it, just kind of whimpers out to nothing. I'm always disappointed by the Sea Devils, so I just don't get it. 8. The Mind Robber. Now, this is another Patrick Troughton story that gets a lot of kudos from fandom, and again, I just don't see it. This was actually the first Second Doctor story that I ever saw back in the late 80s. I had a friend tape it for me. Even then, when I was very much a wide-eyed newcomer, yet to become the cynical bastard that you all know and love, even then I didn't think it was all that great. And over time, I just find it twee and kind of lame. Although I like the regulars, I mean, I love the Second Doctor and Jamie and sexy little Zoe, but it just doesn't do anything for me at all. What am I up to now? 7. Planet of the Spiders. And this is another one. I'm not sure how overrated it is these days. You don't really see many people calling it a stunning classic or anything, but it still seems to be generally favourably regarded. And again, I've never really liked it. It's at 6 parts. It's interminable to sit through. The spiders are incredibly silly, and while there's some good kind of stuff with the regular characters, particularly like Mike Yates, it just feels like a really weak end to the Pertwee era. Now, the Pertwee era isn't one of my absolute favourites, but it has some definite highlights. Spiders is not one of them. 6. I'm going to say it. Genesis of the Daleks. Now, before you all pelt me with hate mail, I don't think Genesis of the Daleks is bad. I just think it's overrated. Again, it's partly down to the length, and it's also kind of down to the lack of humour. It just feels really dour, and that kind of thing tends to just send me to sleep, really, unless you've got enough in the way of compelling action and tension to keep me awake. A lack of humour just, I start to drop off. And Genesis, to me, although there are some great sequences, like the escape from the rocket, up the rocket thing, those sequences aren't enough, or there aren't enough of them, to really justify the length. I prefer Destiny of the Daleks, sorry. At least it's got Lala in it. 5. Oh man, now we're getting into some ones I really don't like. Keeper of Traken. I reviewed this relatively recently. It's boring. I'm not even sure how well made it is. The sets look very setty. It looks like a stage thing. It's just kind of boring. Again, the only thing that rescues it, as I said in my review, is the master reveal, and that wasn't even supposed to be part of the original story. That's something John Nathan Turner threw in at the last minute, and it's the only thing that rescues this from being just boring. Okay, what am I down to now? 4. The Brain of Morbius. Oh, this one will get me some stick. I reviewed this a long time ago, like 5 years ago now, when I first started doing reviews. I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. I just think it's stupid. The Sisterhood are annoying as fuck and just get right on my tits. The plot is just stupid. As I said in that review, and as other people have noted over the years, why doesn't Solon just take Morbius's brain and shove it in the Doctor's own body? Why does he want to cut off the Doctor's head and put it on top of a mishmash monster, and then put Morbius's brain into it? It doesn't make any freaking sense. I think Terrence Dicks himself noted that. And I just find it really... It's not that well made. Certainly the cliff sequence at the end is just laughable. I'm sorry, I just don't like it. 3. Logopolis. Yes, it's another season 18 story. Yes, it's Christopher H. Bidmead again. Always guarantees you a boring time. Again, as with Planet of the Spiders, it's a disappointing regeneration story. And it's particularly disappointing, given how long Tom Baker did in the role and how great of a Doctor he was, to get a story that's just such a damp squib and such a confection of dullardry and nonsense. The Fourth Doctor deserved better. This one I can barely even sit through anymore. It honestly puts me to sleep. I think it was like a year or so ago. I think I even mentioned this in a video. I got like halfway through and I was honestly nodding off. And yet I put something else on afterwards and woke straight up. So it wasn't just me being tired and old. It was the story actually boring me into a coma. Don't like it. 2. Resurrection of the Daleks. Now this one is a fan favourite that I think is just a big pile of shite. I'm sorry. Again, it's a weird thing to me that this is basically... It's like the same writer and the same director with Attack of the Cybermen. And yet Attack of the Cybermen gets slagged off and this gets praised. While I think Attack of the Cybermen is great and I think this is fucking boring and dull and nonsensical. It's just a mishmash of nonsense. And all the macho bull. I mean, I don't necessarily mind the macho stuff if it's well done. Like, if it's got really good characters and snappy dialogue, it's like Attack in some ways. But Resurrection just doesn't have any of that. The dialogue is really flat and functional and cliched. The actors all seem to be well out of their depths, especially Rula Lenska and Rodney Bewes. It's just a freaking mess. I honestly don't understand what this story's popularity is based on. Is it just the bangs and the flashes? Is that all it is? Because it's not down to the plot or the characters or the dialogue, because those things are pretty much non-existent. Sorry, but no. Okay, we're on to number 1. My most overrated Doctor Who story of the original show, anyway. Because screw New Who. Those of you who've been watching this channel long enough and are familiar enough with some of my opinions can probably guess what I think the most overrated story of classic Doctor Who is. It is, of course, kind of a mess. Kinder. The most overrated Doctor Who story of all time. This was actually one of the first reviews that I did in 2016. I think I'd done a review of the Silurians before. I wasn't too thrilled with it because I was just kind of starting out and using the computer voice, and I thought it came across as a bit dry. And just for a laugh, I put a review I did of Kinder, which was basically just a paragraph or two, on a forum. I put it through the text-to-speech, and it kind of amused me. And the rest was history, because I slagged this thing off. Even though that video was only like 70 seconds long, it led me to where I am today. I don't like Kinder. I still don't like Kinder. It's bollocks. I'm sorry. It doesn't make any sense. I get that it's got allusions in it to various religions and all that sort of thing. That doesn't make it good. I know fandom thinks that makes it good and thinks that makes it clever, but it doesn't. It's got two completely separate plot lines that don't have any interaction with one another whatsoever. It's got some gaping plot holes, like, as I said in that review also so many years ago, why does the old wise woman keep giving the box to guys when she says that it drives guys crazy? What the hell is wrong with her then? Why don't you find a chick to give it to? What? I'm sorry, I just think it's crap. And the level of exaltation that it gets these days is just ridiculous. Snake Dance is better. I'm not saying Snake Dance is an all-conquering classic, but at least it makes a lick of fucking sense, you know? Okay, I think that's probably about it. So there you are. Before I say too much, that was my list of my top 10 most overrated classic Doctor Who stories. Be careful what you wish for.